rotation, a microwave approach, focusing on stalkers one by one.
Bolt coming in from every single angle. There's a Time Warp, but look at this concave, this crescent moon.
The fight. This is what's going to happen now. The supply goes in Huck's favor.
He's just going to barrel through, take out whatever. So much pile here coming forth.
Looking like Nesty is going to take it here.
Dancing the roaches a little bit. Scarlet.
Now the Hydras are exposed. Those Mutas are going to die, and it's not really going to make that much of a difference with GG.
Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the WCS Challenger Invite Qualifier, or excuse me, it was mostly open qualifier. I'm here, Axav, I'm here with my co-caster Sham2. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. It's a beautiful day out in New York City, and I'm pretty excited to watch some New York City matches of Starcraft 2. How about yourself?
I'm very excited. There's a lot of world-class players in this tournament. Of course, the people who made it to this tournament, we have 40 players who just barely missed out qualifying for that Premier League. They were the ones who made it to the final rounds of that Premier League qualifier. They're joined by 8 more players who made it through the Challenger League first stage of qualifiers, and joined with 2 more players transferring from the WCS Korea division. That brings us to 50 players playing in a 64-man bracket. Of course, players with the highest seeds get a bye in the first round, but mostly there's a lot of great first round matches. Let's take a look at that bracket.
So we can see here in round 1, we've got Hyun and Jaedong have a bye, as well as Hwang Sin. But we have a whole bunch of other really good matches: Puck versus Sage, Captain versus Noni. And, you know, this is, of course, going to be only the preliminary bracket. After that, we're going to go into the eliminated bracket of losers bracket.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, continue.
Sorry. So, you know, there's a lot of great matches in this winners bracket, especially as the rounds go on. You can see Jaedong's going to have to play Hwansing to get one of those qualifier spots, as well as there's a potential matchup between Sage and Hyun. Also here, continuing down in winners bracket, we see some of the top Chinese players here, like Max said, as well as, you know, DeMuslim, a big fan favorite.
Oh yeah, I'm very looking forward to DeMuslim's play in this tournament today. We also have QXC and I thought I saw, Kawhi Rice in here as well. So a couple of names we haven't seen in a while, but I'm really excited to see them once again.
One player that a lot of people don't recognize, who has a pretty awesome name, of course, is Demon Sheep, one of the premier players from Taiwan. Of course, there's a lot of people supporting him on Twitter, I saw earlier, so hopefully we'll see if Demon Sheep puts up some good games and maybe even makes it through that qualification.
That's a scary name right there. On the third bracket here, we have Sasquatch versus Jim. Sasquatch, of course, a New York native himself, so he's going to be one of our fan favorites, I think, in this set of matches today. We also have Xenocider, who I've seen in a lot of online tournaments. I'm going to be excited to see him if he does well, at least today.
JYP from Team EG, as well as Zenio, could have a potential team kill in round 2 there. Hopefully we'll get a chance to catch that. And of course, onto the last stage of this winners bracket, the last group of players we have. There's going to be some other great players like Tasia, Drunken Boy. We saw Drunken Boy use some great Hellbat drops against Incontrol in the Premier League qualifier, and looks like they might have a rematch if Incontrol can get past Pig in round number 1.
Another really good match here is going to be XY versus Center. Now XY, that is Shigwa. We also have Tasia down there as the bye as well. So Tasia, one of my favorites, personally. I know I'm supposed to not have a favorite. I'm a caster. But I just got to admit, Tasia is one of my favorites here.
Who can't love Tasia? His play is absolutely amazing, of course. He's one of those players transferring from a WCS Premier League in Korea. So he's, of course, probably one of the favorites to win, or at least to qualify here. Very, very strong player. But it's not going to be super easy, because if you look at that bracket, in the first round, he'll play either Trimaster or Mario, both of which are great Terran players from the Americas. And then in round number 3, he's going to be up against what could likely be one of the Chinese All-Stars, either Zigwa or Loner.
All right, guys, so since that is all of our bracket today, we're going to get into our first game today, which is going to be Incontrol versus Pig.
That's right. Of course, everyone knows Incontrol from Team EG, a very, very well-known player. I was up on Reddit just a couple days ago. But also, he does a lot of, community involvement things. He streams a lot. He has, he lets people on the raid call channel with him so they can all communicate with fans. A very involved member of the community, and he actually made it very far in that Premier League qualifier, just falling short of a spot needed to qualify for the Premier League.
And Pig himself is from Australia. He won in the 2012 IEM or WCS Australian. Trying to remember off the top of my head. As well as he's in Exile 5. So he's going to be a pretty versatile opponent against Incontrol. I'm going to be excited to watch that game. And we're in the lobby right now. So let's check to see if our players are ready.
Looks like Pig just needs a minute or two to get ready. So one thing about Pig that's really amazing is he pointed out he won WCS Australia, and that's something that normally Moonglade has on lockdown. I mean, Moonglade is a world-class player from there, but Pig was able to take him out in the WCS Australia. Of course, when it went to the Oceania regional tournament, that's where Moonglade struck back and ended up winning that tournament. But Pig definitely showing that he can compete with some of the very best.
And it looks like the game is underway, so we'll be bringing you that game as soon as possible. First map is going to be on Whirlwind, one of my favorite maps, and of course it's going to, let us be very macro heavy.
That's right. Of course, this is a best of 3. This tournament is a double elimination. The top 16 players from this tournament will qualify to our Challenger League. So, everyone wants to win here, but they lose. They still can go through that lower bracket.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into round 1 of the WCS qualifiers here. And we're going to get into spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner from Team Evil Genius's raid call. It is our red Protoss player, EG Incontrol.
And his opponent at the top right is going to be Exile 5's Pig.
So ZVP lately has been kind of getting into a lot of upsets lately. We've been seeing a lot of different build orders coming out from both of these races. Completely different from what we've been seeing in Wings of Liberty.
Yes.
And I'm really excited to see what we're going to go for. And, so far we can already see with that first pylon, EG Incontrol are going to go for that incredibly safe Forge Fast Expand.
Oh, he is, but here's the tricky part. Pig is going for a 10 pool, and this is going to be very dangerous because this is a 4-player map, one of the best maps to use these early spawning pools in. It makes it so ideal because the chance that a Protoss scouting you early is greatly diminished. We can see now that Incontrol, in fact, is actually scouting in the wrong direction, looking towards the bottom left.
And most people would typically think that a 10 pool or something like this would be incredibly all-in, but actually because you have such a long distance on this map, you actually can safely drone up right behind this and actually just make it incredibly early pressure, and not so much of an all-in kind of all-or-nothing tactic.
Incontrol playing very safe here, getting a Forge before the Nexus if he doesn't know what his opponent is doing. He's also double probe scouting, so he makes sure he will find his opponent as soon as possible once he realizes there was no one in that bottom right location. 6 Zerglings are in production. Incontrol's probe has got to realize what's going on and start that cannon as soon as possible.
And here comes that drone, and it's going to go scouting around. Now, he's going to know in the top left-hand corner there is no Protoss in a couple of seconds as the Overlord is just about to get there, but the drone is going to get a lucky scout here. It's not going to be cross positions. He's going straight on into Incontrol's base. He's going to know exactly where to send those Zerglings, and that's the really dangerous part of doing a 10 pool on a map as huge as this one.
Oh, Incontrol is actually going to give up the front of his base, not trying to build a cannon there, instead building a pylon in his mineral line. As soon as that's finished, he's going to build a cannon in the mineral line as well. This, of course, will save his main, but when he loses this front entryway, it's going to make it very hard for him to go forward and reestablish that natural expansion later down the road.
And I mean, we can already start to see that Incontrol's got 18 Harvesters out, so he just needs to survive this and not take as many losses as he possibly can. Now, here comes a Zergling. They're going to take out that pylon, and they're going to go straight for the Forge. They're not even going to go try and deal with anything in the main.
I think Pig's realizer is going to be cannon there shortly, so like you said, not going to try to get any damage done. But what Pig is, even though he's behind in drones right now, he has his hatchery building. He has a queen with those injects, so he can produce drones at a much faster rate than Incontrol can produce probes.
And he's just going to drone up like crazy, and he's going to be in a really good economic position. Incontrol is going to be stuck in one base. Now here's going to be one of the really difficult parts for Pig to deal with, is what are you going to do when you're backed into a corner as a Protoss? Because there's tons of different tech paths.
There are, of course, with these Zerglings inside Incontrol's base, they're going to see everything that's going on. In fact, he's delaying the mining by quite a bit going after this assimilator. Incontrol doesn't want to lose it, so he's trying to pull probes to save it, but I think it is going to go down.
Oh no, and if that assimilator goes down, he's at least going to be able to get a Stalker out behind this, but he's just going to go straight for Zealots. He's going to try and ward off these Zerglings, but they are going to do the damage. Damage is done here, and now the only gas here for Incontrol has gone down. This is not a great way to start off the very beginning of your matches today.
It's definitely not. We can see Pig's already closed that worker gap, and he has a second mineral line where he can mine resources from, not to mention the fact his drone production can far exceed Incontrol's using the double hatcheries and the queens.
That's right, he doesn't need to pop out any more Zergling. Just keeping these Zergling alive will do enough damage and delay Incontrol enough that he can, you know, as you were saying, just drone up and just get into an incredibly strong lead.
It looks like he's going to try to slow down the buildings with the Zerglings, but Incontrol doing some great zoning with those Zealots, keeping those Zerglings from doing any more damage. Of course, the main goal of Pig here isn't to do damage. It's to keep Incontrol busy for as long as possible while he gets the economic advantage.
Oh no, and one of the Zealots get caught and goes down, and as we all know, he's going to go right back to Ire, as Zealots, apparently, they don't, when they die, they don't turn into a giant blue goo. They actually apparently go back to Ire via teleportation.
Not a bad life.
Not a bad life, right?
Yeah, no, it's like, you know, what's the risk, right? You fight bravely, you fight honorably, and, you know, you think you're going to die, but then you really don't. You just go back home and...
You just go right back to spawn point. It's like Counter-Strike.
Yeah, there you go.
So here we go. Incontrol trying to be a little bit happy with getting this Nexus down, but who knows what we have in store for Pig. He's got Speedling just about to finish up in the next 30 seconds or so, and he looks like he's already building up a huge Zergling force.
He is, and Incontrol, of course, doesn't have that wall in front of his expansion, so Speedling's going to be very dangerous. Pig finds the pylon. That's so important because now he knows to go after this spot before Incontrol can warp in too many units and get a nice attack going.
And that's a really interesting thing here, is that Incontrol has 3 gateways, so he's going to have you know, a good amount of, a sizable amount of gateway units, but he's not going to want to put down more gateways at his wall to really wall this off. I mean, that's going to be a lot of resources he doesn't want to spend right now, but he is going to keep on with a little bit of pressure right now. He's got 6 Zealots hanging out right outside of Pig's Natural, but he's going to get completely surrounded here.
Oh man, the Zealots work back to back. The Speeding's got great service here. Those Zealots are going to be massacred, and it's even worse for Incontrol because his Natural has to be canceled as well. Back to just a single base. He's going to warp in Sentry, so he should be able to defend his main using force fields, but 1 base versus 2 is not a situation you want to be in regardless of the matchup.
Not at all. And I mean, now he's just finally grabbing that assimilator, so he can rely a lot on Zealots, but Zealots are not what he's going to need right now. He's got a couple of sentries out, and that's great, but that's also going to delay a lot of his tech. He just needs to get those miraculous force fields down on these banelings that are coming in here.
What Pig is trying to do is Pig's trying to force as many force fields out as possible to Speedlings, and then the Banelings can run in there and do critical damage. The Incontrol's got to get the force field. He's got to get the force field. He misses it. The Banelings are on the worker line.
Oh, and they take out the photon cannon. Now there's just nothing defending this except for a couple of sentries. As more and more of those probes go down, there's only a couple left, and they have a fraction of a health that they probably want to have right now. The Zealots trying to fight off these Zergling, and they're going to be successful, but the damage is done. Incontrol's down to 12 harvesters to 33 for Pig here.
Not what Incontrol wanted to have happen. 18 workers killed, and when you were only at a few to begin with, 18 is not a number you want to lose.
Not at all. And oh man, just look at that. The income tab is just completely. It's just scary. That is a scary thing to deal with. He's trying to go for the Nexus again, and you know, I have to give him merit on that, but it's just not going to happen. There's just more and more Zergling, and he's even walling off his own ramp to try and save himself in the main, and that's just going to force yet another cancel. That's another 100 minerals gone here for Incontrol.
Every little bit of minerals counts when your economies is such a low point. I think he is going to try to... Oh, going for a big flank is Pig.
And it looks like he's going to barely surround all of the Zealots and be able to clean them up. Looks like the sentries will be okay for now. Maybe, oh, they don't have that much. They don't have any force fields left, actually. It's down to these 3 Zealots to help save the sentry. You know what? I should probably speak a little bit fast. The sentry does go down. Now the Zergling are in the mineral line. They're getting trapped by a whole bunch of probes, but still doing enough damage.
And every probe is so important for Incontrol's position. He has such a small economy. Trying to warp in some sentries again. Of course, Zealot Sentry is the ideal gateway composition against a speeding-based opponent. But What's bad news for him is that Pig is very soon not going to be just making speedings. That Spire is moments from completion.
So I think Incontrol needs to get a Twilight Council, and I think he needs to change the charge upgrade into a jump upgrade, so these Zealots will be useful against the incoming Mutas.
That could work. That could work,
right?
Yeah.
I think that's his only chance right now. As soon as these Mutas come out, I mean, Mutas versus Sentries, definitely not a battle you want to have.
No, it is not. Maybe if you had 20 Sentries or a few Mutas, but there's 7 Mutas in production, a Flyer attack as well. Incontrol still on a single base, and it's not even a saturated base. Only has about 16 workers there, 11 on minerals, 6 on the gases. And these, Speeding's great force field by Incontrol, actually. He's going to get a lot of nice kills here.
Yeah, the Speedling's trying to get out, but they just they keep running into a wall. Not really the smartest of animals out here in Starcraft 2. They're just going to get completely slaughtered by these Zealots. They should have turned around and fought for a little bit, but it doesn't really matter at this point. The Mutalisks coming in the next couple of minutes, they're going to be the scary force here. 8 already out on the map.
I'm pretty sure we're going to see a GG here from Incontrol as the Mutas enter his base, and he knows he has nothing at all that can deal with them.
I mean, he didn't give up yet. I'll give him that. He didn't give up until, you know, there was the absolute definition of losing there. So you got to give him that. You know, he's going to try and stay in that game as long as possible, at least.
That's right. You know, it's always kind of tricky. It's like, yes, he really was pretty much out of that game for quite a while before it ended. But from his point of view, he just saw a lot of speedings coming in. He didn't really know the economy his opponent had behind that. So maybe he's like, okay, if he's still on 12 drones, I can still win this.
Exactly, and that's one of those gambles you have to take in these types of situations where maybe he just over-droned, or maybe he just over-zerglinged. He doesn't have any drones. If I survive this push, the next push, and a couple more pushes, maybe I can, you know, make this back on even ground. But unfortunately, Pig was just 2 steps ahead. He was really in control of that map, and he was going on a 3rd hatchery already.
That's right, 3 hatches versus 1. Mutatech versus just Sentries and Zealots. That was no good for Incontrol. He loses the first map, but remember, it is a best of 3. He can still win the next 2 to come back. We'll be right back with game number 2 after a short break.